Escape room employees, what's the stupidest thing you've seen someone do to try and get out? This was our group. We were having trouble with the last puzzle, to get out which involved pressing multiple buttons. We couldn't figure out the sequences and finally asked for a hint. The employee just said all together, so now instead of pushing all the buttons at the same time we all put our hands on the door knob, assuming the power of friendship was what was needed to get out. The employee just went no the buttons, cue helpless embarrassed laughter for the next half hour. With our powers combined, we humiliate ourselves. Not an employee, but a participant. My group went to a pirate ship themed escape room. One of the puzzles involved pressing lit up labeled buttons on a wall in a particular sequence to unlock a door. A common theme, to me, in this room was water. There were exposed water pipes that had cartoonish signs on them reading "Do not touch," and one of the lights on the wall read "water" and the light behind it was out. I had to have fixated on this for a good 30 minutes. I tried unscrewing parts of the water pipes, pressing the water button, while trying to open parts of the pipe, everything. After we finally moved on and finished, the GM told us that the room had nothing to do with water. I was actually just messing with their water system. We have some windows in our rooms with obvious labels saying, "Please don't open window," but when we get the drunks, yes, at least once a month we'll get one drunk person who ignores the label and tries climbing out the window. An employee of an escape room told me this one. The room was in English, but one of the guys was Italian, and for some unknown reason couldn't communicate that he wanted to go to the toilet beforehand. So they go into the room. There is a bucket there that is supposed to be used as a clue, but this madman waits while the lights are still off, horror-based room, and pees in the bucket. And because the bucket was in a camera dead zone and there was a sponge in it, they found out after the room was over. Not an employee, but I once tried to use a magnetized tool behind the camera they were using to watch me, because I thought there was a key there. Even the game maker was confused. So many things. One thing that really got me though, they are all given blacklight flashlights at the beginning of the game. At one point, there was a case full of books that they eventually find a key for. The trick was that they all had secret messages within that lit up with the black lights. They did not use the black lights. Instead, they thought they were supposed to read the books. Like, start to finish. There were at least 15 full books in the case. At this point they had about 35 minutes, out of an hour, to escape. They all just laid down and read the books for at least 20 minutes before they asked for a clue. Did one with friends before, where you start in a small room and gradually oven the other rooms. The first room you assemble a door knob to get out. Later a few of us went back in to put a backlight we found around the room for numbers. The door closed behind us and we realized one of us dismantled the door knob and took it out of the room to check for other hidden doors. Calling the guy on the walkie-talkie to explain we were trapped was a little confusing. He said that's the point. He came up and dismantled the lock. We were the first people to get trapped this way. I'm not an employee, but I was told this by one once. There's a haunted cabin themed room, and one of the decorations is a creepy baby doll, which serves no functional purpose in the room. There's one part towards the end where you need to perform a ritual, and the employee said that people tie the doll to a hanging string in the room and swing it around to sacrifice it. Apparently they also chant and hold the fake plastic candle decorations as the doll swings around. Haha. This was me. There was a mop you were supposed to use to swipe over a wall that needed to be cleaned. The mop had a magnet in it and released a latch in the wall. However, on that same wall was a section of random stenciled lettering, like a supply crate kind of. Stupid me thought the puzzle was that you were supposed to wash away some of the lettering, made of water-soluble paint, and certain letters would stay and reveal a code. I kept mopping the shit out of that wall and scratched it to hell for several minutes before an employee had to point out that I'd already undone the latch. Not an employee, but I have a group of friends that I do escape rooms with a lot. On one room, At some point you found a few ping pong balls and rackets. Two of us cleared a table and started playing, while the other two looked at us like we were out of our minds. Lots of things can be credited to nerves, first time, or just whoops moments. I've had two groups now that immediately try every code they find on the door they entered from. Would you really be happy if the first code you found let you escape? Seems like a waste of money to me, but hey, you guys do you. Something my group did. The scenario of the room was we were captured, and they had us all handcuffed to a cot in the room. We could move around a little bit with the chain attached to the cuffs, and since it was a small room with a light on the desk we could grab most of the puzzles and bring it to the cot. We solved a lot of the puzzles, still not finding the key to the cuffs to get free. With only a small desk lamp for light it was hard to see most of the writing, but we made do and continued to solve things. About 20 minutes of solving things still cuffed to the cot, the GM sends us a message saying you can turn on the lights next to the door was a light switch, and after turning on the room lights on the black wall right next to us was a black key hanging on a nail, the key to the cuffs. We escaped the room shortly after that. Hard mode ACTIVATED*. Scream until someone came in to escort me out the room. I was in the escape room with my friend. He just tried to open door without key. As someone who actually worked at an escape room, it always bugged me when people would go to a lock and just start putting in random numbers, since it's almost impossible to get the right combination and you are basically of no use to your group, since each lock can be solved just by going through the puzzles in the room and figuring it out logically. Thank you for attending my TED Talk. One of the benefits of going to new escape rooms is listening to the opening spiel about what you can't do in the room. I think my first ever escape room, the operator specifically told us we couldn't pull off the electrical outlet covers. I figured someone had been watching too much Breaking Bad. I went to one escape room where they told us we didn't need to open air vents, access the ceiling panels, or move any furniture, etc. Turns out one of the clues was under a piece of furniture. The room had electronic components, so there were electric wires that were tied down but looped around the room. One Friday night, someone tried licking them, just in case. There is a note in one of our rooms that specifies that teams can't put anything electrical on a hook. This group came in and rewired one of the RFID sensors, which was hidden underneath a painting which is screwed to the wall, because a note mentioned something about electrical stuff, and it was hanging off. Thankfully it wasn't hard to fix, but goddamn that was stupid. Someone else posted this story where at some point you find a screwdriver. The point was to unscrew a clock you found previously to get a key. Instead one guy started taking apart all the furniture, started unscrewing fixtures off the wall. He was a little bit overzealous. My parents and their friends did one a few years ago. There was a coat rack in the room and my dad didn't think it was anything important, so he hung his coat up. Later, one of their friends showed up with this mini screwdriver and no one could figure out what it was for, so they called in the escape room employees for a hint. Employees were equally baffled because screwdriver was not part of the set. Turns out the friend had been searching the pockets of the jackets, one of which was my dad's. My dad's jacket was the one he wore down to the yard where he keeps the company trucks and various projects. Sometimes he puts random stuff in there when he has nowhere to set his tools down. They all had a good laugh, but wasted probably 10 minutes fucking around with it before they asked for help. Alright, we found the number. It's 3 plus 4. That's 11. None of his 3 teammates questioned him. They kept trying the wrong number. I even teased them repeating it back to them. I love my job. I just assume any non-common rules given at the beginning are because some idiot has already done it. Don't jump out the 2-story window. Don't eat or drink anything that you find. Don't try to climb into the ceiling. Don't touch anything with an orange sticker, which turns out to be 80% of the room including electrical sockets. Turning this on its head, I went to an escape room once that had a ridiculously impossible puzzle. Basically you were supposed to pick up this one chair and place it in a very specific spot on the floor, and then when you sit in it, look in 3 mirrors. If you had the chair set up just right, you could see 3 pictures on the walls in the reflections. Then you were supposed to count the number of people in each picture from right to left, and that was the combination to a lock. But who the fuck can accurately count 32 people in a class photo, through a mirror, from 10 feet away? Not to mention there was no indication that the chair was supposed to be moved to that spot, or that the photographs were a clue. After we spent like 40 minutes completely stuck, the host straight up told us over the intercom how to solve that part of the puzzle, and we were all standing around dumbfounded. Who the hell came up with that one? The host's explanation after it was over was, well, you should have known the mirrors were a clue. Yeah, okay, sure, maybe if that chair was bolted to the floor and obviously suspicious. But who's going to think to pick up a random chair in the corner and move it to that one very specific, unmarked spot? Never went back to that place. It's not fun when the puzzles are impossible.